Good morning, year three. Sorry, you're so mature. I've given you an extra year. Sorry about that. Today, four is really important to us today because we're thinking within our maths recap about recognising a quarter. So what we're going to be doing is you'll need a piece of paper if you can find one somewhere because it helps you understand something. So first, we're going to be successful today. We're going to consider what's meant by a quarter. We're going to revisit what a fraction represents. And we're going to check for four equal parts, and we're going to confirm that we've only indicated one. A really simple beginning. Put our piece of paper, and we fold our piece of paper like this, so it's now in half. Okay, so when I unfold it, I can see there's a line down the middle, so I can see two equal parts. What I'd like you to do then is fold it back so it's in half again, so it's folded like it was. So I've got my flat one, I fold it. Then turn it that way and fold it again. And what you should do then, when you squeeze it and get some nice lines, unfold it, and you should see then you've got four rectangles within your piece of paper. Now, because there's four, what we can do is rewrite four on each one of them. Okay, four on each one of them. Then what we can do is draw a horizontal line above each of our number fours. And we can then see that if we just want to make one of them our special one, so now I've highlighted just one of them. So I've highlighted one of them as my little green one. So you might not be able to see that, but this one here is my little green one. I'll give it a little bit extra highlighting. Now, because it's only one of them that I've highlighted, I'm going to put a special number 1 as my top value. And now I've got one of my four parts is highlighted. So I have four equal parts I've split the whole into. That's why my denominator, which is the number at the bottom of my fraction, is 4. But my numerator at the top of the fraction is 1 because I've only got one of them that I care about at the moment. That's my quarter I've shown, okay, that I've highlighted. So my 1/4 is highlighted there. Okay, so you can do that with some bits of paper to divide them up. Because a quarter, a fraction generally is how much of the whole we're indicating, and a quarter is one of the four equal parts that a whole is split into. Okay, so which of these, going back, because you remember before we went into quarters, we had halves. So which of these is a half, do we think? Which of these shapes? Can you spot which one? Shout it out. I can see lots of you have spotted B. Anybody spotted any more? I'm sure you have, Imogen. Yeah, okay, great stuff. We've got A as well. The circle has been split into two equal parts. We've got B. E, that triangle, and the rectangle at the bottom is also a rectangle. Great stuff. Now, don't worry about picking. Just spot again which of these have been split into four equal parts. If you remember what we did before we wrote anything on our piece of paper, which of these have been shared into four equal parts? Because it's not always a horizontal and a vertical line. It's sometimes diagonal lines. I gave you a bit of a clue there, didn't I? Because it's not just B, it's also A. Okay, so we can see that A is almost like it was it was divided like that and then divided the other way. Okay, and the rectangle of B has folded horizontally and then horizontally again. So there's different ways of folding things, but we can see that those two are equal. Whereas C's circle and D's triangle, the parts are different sizes, so it's not equal parts. And for it to be a quarter, it needs to be an equal part. The images below, which ones of these? You might do this on a piece of paper. Don't worry, this is the teaching bit. This isn't the bit that you need to worry about recording. Which of these are quarters, which are not? What do you think? I think D might be a quarter because I can see four equal parts there. If I look at the parts that aren't in blue, they look equal to one that is in blue. So I've got one that's blue, my 1/4 that's highlighted, and then I've got three other quarters which are not highlighted underneath. Now, hang on a second. There's not one highlighted for C, is there? There's more than one. So if it's 2 as a numerator, will it be 1/4 or should it be not 1/4? There's only one highlighted in B, and they look like they're the same size. So I think, yeah, B and D are correct. A and C are not. I can see with A, it doesn't look right, does it? They don't look equal size, so I was pretty sure about that one. Right, guys, don't need you to shade these, but what you could do is get yourself a piece of paper and try and fold them into these shapes and then shade in a quarter. Have a go at doing that, like I've done here. Okay, so you'll need a square piece of paper and a rectangular piece of paper. Have a go at doing that, just so you're practicing your fractions. And when you've done it, you should end up with something that looks like, pause it if you want to keep it exciting, looks like this. Okay, so you should have one section highlighted because one of our sections is a quarter and the other 3/4 are unhighlighted because they're the part that we're not focusing on. Okay, guys, which of these has a quarter shaded, do we think? We can see that all of them have got one part shaded, but remember, it needs to be an equal part, doesn't it? 4 equal parts. So I think it is, yeah, it's A, isn't it? It's A to be circled because, yeah, the others, the only one that's split into equal parts, and unless it's split into equal parts, we can't call it a fraction. So we can't call it them quarters. Okay, which one's the odd one out here? I'm looking. Well, you could say it's the B because it's a triangle, but it's about which one's a quarter. Now, I don't think A is a quarter because they don't look like equal parts, nor does D. And although B kind of is cut the same, the bottom ones are going to be smaller, aren't they? So I think it's C. And why is it C? See, because it's the only one that's been divided into 4 equal parts. And that equal part is really important within fractions. Right, guys, pause the video now and have a look at these. See if you can figure out which should be, which are split into 4 equal parts. And then if you want to do a couple of circles on a piece of paper for 5A, have a go at that. Pause the video now. Moving on, if you've done those two, have a go at this one now. You've got another sorting, a different type of diagram here, so you can make your own little table where you're looking at equal parts and not equal parts. So we're thinking again about the idea that for it to be quarters, they all need to be equal parts. So have a go at doing that, please. Pause the video while we go through. Lovely job, guys. Hopefully you've managed to do 4 and 5 now, so we can see that only A is equal in 4 equal parts, and that only A for 5A is a quarter, because B has 2 quarters. The ones that, because then those triangles aren't the same size, because the ones on the side are wider than the ones on the top and the bottom. Okay, so therefore the triangles are not equal. And D, we can see that that blue section of the circle is bigger. Okay, and looking at our answers for 8A, pause the video if you haven't done it and want to have a go at 8A. Okay, guys, we can see that A and B have 4 equal parts and 1/4 of 1 part shaded. C is not 4 equal parts because we can see that those are not equal. And we can see that D has 3 sections, not 1 section shaded. Okay. Right, today in your main math session, you're going to be doing what's called an end of block assessment. So you're not getting a second video today. You just get me, and you just get me for not much longer now. I'm just explaining to you about what to do. I really want, and Miss Ashford really wants you to do this assessment on your own. Okay, if your brother or sister's been helping you with everything else, great. But we want to know, sorry, those angles shouldn't have come on yet. We want to know what you can do for this bit. Now, with number 1, it talks about arrays. If you haven't got them, be like Jessica and Imogen and get yourself some sweets. Maybe you can ask mum and dad if you can eat them when you finish it, or eat some of them, or maybe just get some toys and make a little set of however many is in that top row and however many is in each column. So I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in that top row, and I can see 5 in the column. So make 5s and 7 sets of them, and try and do that, or draw them out on a piece of paper. With these, look how the presentation is. 1 square, 1 digit. I keep saying it to Ruben in class. Can all of you try and do 1 square, 1 digit, guys? And then do that again when you're doing it number 5. If you haven't got square paper, don't worry, but make sure the 3 and the 3 are on top of each other and that the 1 is to the left of each other. So we've got our columns. It helps us with our calculations. Looking at Evie's question here, where she's asked you to explain her mistake. You could do that by showing me the right answer, but could we have a sentence as well? Miss Ashford loves a sentence explaining a reason. And finally, you've got the question here to work that one out. Try and use that same presentation that we've got for the previous question where we're using the column method, 1 square, 1 digit if you can. Okay. And finally, guys, if you haven't got cubes, still try and maybe draw them out. If you have got cubes, use some cubes. Okay. Try and do this sheet then on your own. And today in your pack, you'll also be getting the answer sheets from last week's work, or earlier this week's works about division, scaling, and how many ways. Thank you for listening really well today, year 3. I look forward, and Miss Ashford looks forward to reading all those completed answer sheets. See you, guys. Bye-bye.